Hello, I'm Andre and this is Osteo. Welcome to my little corner on YouTube where I talk about knitting, fiber, spinning, whatever other stuff I get up to. I am a university professor in Northern Ontario where I teach forensic science and human osteology, and this is why these are in my background. I don't know where the month of May went. June is right around the corner. It's that weird kind of hangover period between the term ending and summer truly starting. My fourth year grads are graduating next week. We're welcoming our new crop of incoming students. Their final day to accept their offers is Monday. So yeah, lots going on. A lot has been going on with my crafting as well. Even beyond what I'm about to show, I've had a lot going on with posting on Instagram and Ravelry. We are kicking off Stashdown Summer School. So I do have a very, very brief orientation video, and I do hope to get more recordings out as we get underway. But Stashdown Summer School is all about working from your stash, finishing your whips, and clearing stuff out. You can kind of pick and choose what you want to work on. I do have monthly themes in case anybody needs a little extra guidance, and there's plenty of ways to interact with other people. Like I said, I'm hoping to post videos once a month-ish for Stashdown Summer School. I'll be very active on Instagram, which my Instagram is Osteo. If you're posting on Instagram, please do tag me and use the hashtag Stashdown Summer School. And there's also a Ravelry group where you can post. I've set it up so that you can participate in whichever way you are comfortable. I know that Ravelry isn't accessible to everyone. Some people aren't on Instagram. Some people just want to watch and follow along on their own, and that's totally fine. Participate as much or as little as whichever way you want. The whole point of it is to kind of reconnect with the ongoing things we have and try to clear up some mental and physical space. So I'll post links below. There is a registration form. It's a Google form, just to kind of lay out what your plans might be. And I also ask whether or not you're okay with me sharing your photos, because I know not everybody's on board with that. Yeah, so that was a little thing that I was brewing on while I was grading exams. So it was a fun little diversion. I am so thrilled to see that the ideas resonated with a lot of people. So I look forward to seeing what everybody gets up to over the summer. I think it'll be fun. And apparently all I needed was to announce plans to finish whips and work on stash to actually kickstart a finishing frenzy of my own. So yeah, it's been busy. Been getting a lot of stuff done, and I think ultimately this has come out of being more focused and a little less prone to being easily bored. I've previously shown these, but I have now finished all 10 of my crochet grad skulls. So I have a whole bag of them ready to go. Each one is unique, and I will be handing these out next week at convocation to my students. Another cute little stuffy that I finished was a knitted whale. So our local used bookstore Bay's Used Books for the last 3 years has been doing a sort of yarn bomb installation that is in collaboration with the Deaf Blind Association, and each year they've had a theme. This year's theme is space, or something like the final frontier, and immediately, being the nerd that I am, I said I have to knit a whale. And especially given that this is going into a bookstore, I hope that people will get my humor. So the whale from Hitchhiker's Guide from the Galaxy. I contemplating seeing if I could make a little bowl of petunias as well, but settled with just the whale. I've already brought that off and donated it. I think the 29th is the last day to bring them in. So I'll post a picture up here. It was a fairly easy knit, and it was perfect because it used up some stash I had. It used up all that was left of a incomplete ball of Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in sport weight, and made a really, really cute whale. Other things I finished. My little Mira shawl by Audrey Borrego. And I'm looking to see which is the correct size. So here is a shawl, scarf, whatever you want to call it. It is a pretty good size. This used up almost an entire ball of Ancient Arts Revival in, I think the color was Circe. It's this lovely red color, a tonal, and the blend was, I believe, wool, silk, mohair, and nylon. So it has this really nice halo to it. So I figured it would be so soft to have as a next to face piece. And like, it would have been difficult to incorporate in color work or in a larger project because I don't have anything with a fiber blend like this. Anyways, this was a really fun knit. It knit up so quickly, and because it's basically set up so that you can measure your yarn, figure out when you're halfway, and then start decreasing, there was very little left over. So I really got to make the most out of that one ball of yarn. And then my final finish is what I'm wearing here. Maybe I'll stand up to fully show it. So this is my love note. I think I was halfway through the first sleeve when I last showed this, so particularly with the gauge that it's knit at, it is very, very speedy. The sleeves, kind of a balloon sleeve, so they are straight with no decreases until you get to the cuff. So very quick to get through. I'm so pleased with the finished project. It is a nice, light, breezy item that I can throw on over a dress like I've done today, or over a tank with jeans or trousers. I don't wear jeans very often. Yeah, I love the color. This is Knit Picks Aloft in the color Toronto, along with sock yarn that I had dyed with the frosted stitch. So it is a very unique color. I'm so thrilled with it. I'm also glad that I'm not knitting a mohair sweater in the summer, although there was a little toxic part in my brain that was considering casting on a Salem sweater. I've managed to quiet it down for now. Oh, I do have a very small skein of finished hand spun. So this was a bat that Jen of Trial by Fiber gave me. The bat, I believe, is from Hummingbird Fibers, who doesn't seem to be dying anymore. And it was called Game of Checkers. I just internally kept referring it to the cardinal bat because, yeah. The black did come through a lot more than the red. So the bat was in a gradient, and I ended up splitting the bat in half and spinning each gradient and plying them together in the same gradient. So I spun these on a supported spindle, and it is just a 2-ply. So because of that way that I spun it, most of the black is with black, we've got white with white, and we've got a bit of a transition in between. So this will knit up giving those sort of stripes. Do I have any plans for it? Absolutely not. Spinning and making yarn is a totally different activity from knitting. Although I am trying to get better at using up my own hand spun. So those are the things I finished. And because I finished a lot of the things I was working on. So I was working on this, I was working on the grad skulls, the mirror shawl, and my stria, I think. Yeah. So progress I've made on those has been quite a lot as well. Those. I'm just talking about the stria at this point. So, Stria by Andrea Mowry has been a cardigan I've been working on for quite a while. I believe I started it in September 2024. So last I showed this, I was halfway through the second sleeve. We now have 2 finished sleeves. I have picked up all of the stitches for the button band, and I'm nearly done. You can see the little buttonholes here. I really like these buttonholes. I find often in knit garments the buttonholes are so small. These are not. They're not just that yarn over, knit 2 together. Here you go, it's a buttonhole. So I think I have 2 more rows for the button band, then the setup for the tubular bind off, and then there's going to be a lot of cursing for this 340 some stitch tubular bind off. And then sewing in all of the ends. I have started. You may see the top here. I have started sewing in the ends. But yes, I'm so excited that this is progressing. I kind of felt like this is one of those things that I was plugging away on and it was taking forever. And it is so close to being done. So yeah, there's also a lot of ends in the sleeves as well. Anyways, Stashdown Summer School. This is going to be one of my priorities. because I finished so many of the things I was working on, I revisited the work socks that I was making for my partner. They're not completely done yet, but oh, and because I didn't mention, my Stria is knit out of the Frosted Stitch sock yarn in most of the colors from the library collection. The primary color is Pages. Okay, work socks. We have one finished sock. We have this one. I finished the gusset, and I think I did about a dozen rows after the gusset. I have a row counter, but also I don't trust my numbers from the previous sock, so I'm just going to be comparing them. This was a kit that I purchased to knit socks. It is from Timber Yarns. This marled sock is in the marled sock yarn is in the color Aruba, which is this really nice blue. I'm doing a 3x1 rib on most of the sock except for the cuff, which is a 2x2, and adding stripes to use up the yarn that was in the kit. So all of this came together. And it is a DK weight, so it is knitting quite quickly, although to make a nice, like, cozy at-home sock, I'm using the number of stitches that I normally use on a fingering weight sock. So they'll be cozy, comfy house socks, basically. And because I couldn't help myself, you know, I had finished all of these things, I had to cast on something new. And in a way it does fulfill something that I do need to work on, which is work with my hand spun yarn. So I've started a scarf. This is the father-in-law scarf. And I'm knitting it using my hand spun alpaca that I finished last summer. So these were bats of alpaca fiber that had come from an alpaca named Star from a local farm. I do have 2 skeins of this, but here is the yarn. There are bits that are marled, there are bits that are brown on brown, there are bits that are white on white. I just let it go how it wanted to be. And it is really fun seeing how this is working up. I chose to use a needle size or a gauge that was looser than the pattern because I wanted to have that nice drape from alpaca. I didn't want it to be too stiff, which you can get especially with a dense hand spun yarn. And it's a fairly easy pattern with these columns of slip stitches in between the garter. So I feel like it really lets that yarn shine, and you see the natural colors of Star and her fleece. I know technically an alpaca is a blanket. Yeah, her fiber. So obviously still a long way to go, but this is a nice easy breezy thing to work on when I'm reading or just don't want to use my brain. So moving into June with the first month of Stashdown Summer School. I will be doing a separate video about this, but the theme for the first month is quick wins and single skein projects. So my main quick wins here will be my Stria cardigan, which is so close to being done, but will have those annoying tasks of weaving in the ends and sewing on buttons, which I'm really bad at sewing on buttons, but I have buttons. I have them, I just need to put them on the damn thing. So hopefully that won't be too much of a deterrent and I can finally finish this. The work socks also are so close to being done that I should be able to easily knock them out. And I would like to do a little one skein project, particularly a worsted weight hat. There's been a hat pattern that I've been wanting to make for quite a while. It's called the Loam hat, and I have the pattern in a book called, I guess, Slow Knitting, something like that. I had picked it up at a used bookstore. It's got some lovely patterns in it. Anyways, but it's a fairly simple hat pattern. And immediately what I thought would be great for that is yarn that my dad brought me back from Ireland. So it is Donegal tweed, and I'm between this green or this, I guess you would call that a violet. I guess the primary question is, would it be for me or for somebody else? In which case, well, I would wear either one of these colors. Green is my favorite color, a thing that most people don't guess, but I also really love purple. So I would wear either one of these. Maybe I'll knit two. I don't know. We'll see what I feel inspired by when I come to cast it on. So yeah, for the month of June, finish the Stria, finish the work socks, and hopefully finish a lovely tweed hat. For July, the theme is more like long-term projects and deep stash, and August is scrappy items and scrap busting and just kind of creatively using those little bits and bobs that you've got in your stash. So I have a little bit of everything in my whip pile, which I hope to show in a separate video. Yeah. So that's what I've been working on. Oh, I also have a book blanket update. Okay. I don't remember which hexie I showed last. Don't remember if I finished Mummified before the last time I recorded, but this is Mummified. That was a nonfiction book that was kind of like the story behind a lot of Egyptian mummified bodies that ended up in various European museums. A lot of them have taken long journeys, have been held in private collections, and have been largely disembodied. Like, the way museums treat the preserved bodies of Egyptian people from ancient times is different from how they treat other human remains. They're kind of seen as not human. They're seen more as like an artifact. And it's absolutely true. Like, there's so many museums where those are the only human remains that are on display. and they're not necessarily given the ethical consideration that you would probably give to other remains. Like they're even the name mummy, it commodifies those remains. They're treated like a thing as opposed to a person. Anyways, definitely like right up my alley. Obviously work with human remains is something that's important to me, and even though like archaeology and preservation of human remains is kind of essential for my profession, I do see kind of the give and take as to, you know, how much of it is that we're hoarding stuff, and that we do need to be respectful of the fact that these were living, breathing human beings. And especially in the case of the preserved, mummified remains from ancient Egypt, they didn't want to be in museums. And like, anyways, I'm not gonna go on a whole rant, but if this is an area that you're interested, I highly recommend the book. It was great. It came from a place of passion, and had really kind of detailed deep dives in a lot of the people that brought boatloads of mummified remains into Europe, but particularly like France and the UK, and kind of the journeys that those remains have been on. Okay. And a lot of like interesting stories about weird racist ideas. Yeah. Other book I finished was Circe by Madeline Miller. So that was this one. It is the story of, she's the daughter of Helios, a member in the Greek pantheon, and just the sort of, like, I am not super familiar with, I know some degree of the Greek pantheon, but I would not say I'm an expert on it and I know the nitty gritties, and never taken a course on it. I just know kind of things I've encountered here and there. But I don't think that the story that's been recounted is canon, right? But it is an imagined telling of Circe's life. And it was very kind of female empowerment and really, yeah, like kind of a feel-good story, ultimately. I mean, there was a lot of bad shit that happened, but maybe this is a reflection of how warped I am. Either way, it was a fun read. I found it was a bit of a slow start, but once she had experienced a punishment and kind of had to wrestle with herself and accept her own identity, I found like that part was great. Okay. And next book, this one with the bright yellow, was Madame Restell, and another nonfiction. This is the story of a woman named Anne Lantham. Madame Restell was not her real name. She immigrated to the United States, to New York, from Ireland with her husband, who was a tailor. He was drunk, and he passed away when her daughter was young. So she had to find ways to support her daughter and herself. She did do some work as a seamstress, but ultimately ended up teaming up with a doctor who was compounding various pills, including a type of birth control pill, ultimately. And over time, she ended up taking up this practice herself and took on the moniker of Madame Restell to like give her some extra fanciness by taking a French name. Although I don't know how anybody hearing an Irish accent could ever think that she was French. Anyways, her livelihood became selling these birth control pills, but also providing abortions. And this was important to note in the early 1800s. But that profession ended up making her like the equivalent of a modern day millionaire. And it did certainly give her some troubles. She spent some time in jail, spent a lot of time in courts, had all kinds of accusations against her, but ultimately was pretty badass. Yeah. Anyways, and like all of this was kind of brought back into context of what is going on around reproductive health in the United States, and kind of how we're moving back to those times where we're having to rely on, well, people are having to resort to not great situations to take care of, you know, various circumstances that they may be in. And it doesn't end well for a lot of people. But yes. So yes, that is the state of my book blanket. As always, I always seem to talk about the ends. It looks a lot worse than it is. This is the back. I have sewn in all of the ends in the middle. It looks bad because it's all the ones on the outside that have the ends hanging. This just gives me so much joy because it's a record of the books I've read over the last 2 years, and it's just so fun. It's fun and wild and crazy. The books I'm currently reading, I've started a fiction book by Kingfisher. It is What Moves the Dead, and it is a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher. And I am really, really enjoying that book. I love Edgar Allan Poe. I am far overdue for a good reread of Edgar Allan Poe. And I'm pretty sure I have, amongst all of the books I have, I think I have everything he's written. But that was like a big obsession I had in middle school, early high school, where I read everything by Poe. And yeah, so it is certainly an interesting twist, and I'm really loving the language used, and maybe I should follow this book up with a rereading of The Fall of Usher by Poe. But yes. Another book I'm reading is 4,000 Weeks, which is kind of like an anti-productivity book. So the title comes from the fact that, you know, assuming as a human you live 80 years, you will have 4,000 weeks, which sounds like so little. And I'm finding it really helpful because, particularly in academia, like our work-life balance is awful. We go from being grad students where, you know, you eat, sleep, breathe your work, and then you kind of bring that into your job, and that's rewarded and almost expected. And it's not good for you, ultimately. And my colleagues and I often talk about when we try to rest, when we try to take a break, we end up just feeling guilty about it. And yeah, that's not good. So this book has really kind of been helping me to take that step back and recognize that rest is good. I don't need to be working all the time. And it is so true that rushing and, trying to finish everything on our plate is just not feasible, because there's always more to fill that up again. Yeah. Anyways, that's been really great. And because I had to have a nonfiction book as well, I've started a book by Alex Hagerty called Still Life with Bones. And I've just read the introduction, but from what I understand, it's mostly based on her experiences working in excavating mass graves in Guatemala and Argentina of individuals who had been disappeared by the government. So, should be right up my alley. Yeah. As much as I call this sort of period a hangover in between the term and summer, it does feel like the last few weeks have been very good for me mentally. I've needed a break, and it has been nice to reconnect with things that do give me joy. And anyways, maybe I can discuss with this in a future episode, but I've been playing with like different ways to approach reading and work on like my own recall of books, because sometimes I'll speed through a book and at the end I don't really know how to describe it. Yeah. Anyways, enjoying reading, enjoying knitting and making progress on it, and also spinning, although I don't have anything yet done beyond that one little skein to show. I don't have a lot of acquisitions either, actually. I did receive some fiber from the Long Way Homestead breed study. The one I just got was Blue-Faced Leicester. I'm currently spinning the Corriedale, and I'm almost done the single. I think I'm going to chain ply it again. So hopefully it'll be similar in terms of the spin as the, what was the other one? Clenforest. Yeah, after that it'll be Ile-de-France. Yeah. But yes, hopefully next update I'll have more spinning to show. I don't have a lot of acquisitions beyond my club from the Frosted Stitch, showing the stitch marker. Is it working? Maybe. It's a labyrinth. And the theme is Crete. Interesting, given that I just finished Circe. But so Crete is the biggest island of Greece. It is a place with very rich archaeological, historical, mythological history. And aren't these colors just so dreamy? I love this like purpley, burgundy-ish color, and then these soft browns, and this little pop of blue here. Very, very pretty. So this is the Frosted Stitches monthly club. It is, I think it's called the Expeditions. Could be wrong. It's a lot of like urban legends, mythological places, cryptids, stuff like that. So previous installations of this have been the Yeti, Bigfoot was last year, we had Leprechaun, Loch Ness, and there's plenty more to come. I am getting it on DK this year, but you can get it on pretty much any weight you want. This has not gone up for sale yet, so you're getting a sneak peek of it. If this is something you would like in your collection, it should be available to order in the next week or so. So check out the Frosted Stitch for that. So yeah, I gave a little bit of a life update at the beginning, but summer's nice. I'm not a big, like, very, very warm weather person, but this time of year is fairly comfortable. I'm getting a little bit warm in this right now, but we've planted our garden. I've been hanging out outside in my egg chair, and I live on a dead-end street, so it's very, very quiet. Sitting out on the back deck, we see a lot of activity from squirrels and chipmunks and birds, so it's really peaceful and quiet. Perfect spot for knitting and reading. I have yet to take out the spinning wheel on the back deck, but I will, absolutely. We'll be going to the Perry Sound Yarn and Fiber Festival on June 6th, and I also plan on going to the Muskoka Fiber Festival. I am, of course, very eager to see everyone's progress on Stashdown Summer School. Again, I'll post all of the links that you may need. If you have any questions, you're welcome to shoot me a message. I have a lot more information in the Ravelry group and on my Instagram. I've even put together a little syllabus so you can check out what I've got planned there, but it's very easygoing. It's not like a competition or anything. It's just really, you know, what you want to work on and what you want to clear out from your own personal, physical, and mental space. Yeah. You'll be seeing me again. Yeah. You're probably going to see a lot more of me this summer, hopefully. Unfortunately, the orientation video was very brief because I kept losing my voice. I still have a bit of this leftover graveliness, but fortunately I've rested it enough that I've lasted this whole blathering period. But yeah. Okay. Enough from me. I hope you're in for Stashdown Summer School. I'm very excited to finish some things. I've had an absurd pile of whips, and I have a huge stash, so it would be great to clear some of those things off. Yeah. All right. I'm going to stop for real now. Goodbye, everyone. Take care.